3 copies of Obsidian and a copy of Olivia. I would be surprised if he wanted all of his 5s, even though they're both individually good against Jund. You, of course, only want so many 5-mana cards in your deck. I think that I personally prefer Obsidian here, but I could see either one of those 5s being added to the deck. And Underworld Connections, pretty good in an attrition-y kind of removal-oriented matchup as well.
Yeah, I think almost certainly Connections is going to come in. I think you do want those 3 Obsidians, as you did say. Taking a look at the removal that Matt does have in his deck, you look for instant speed removal to try to catch one of those Obsidians. First card I look for is Murder, which he does have 1 copy of in his deck. Looking at the sideboard, Ground Seal you can potentially get active if necessary. He has to go through some means to be able to do that. So Obsidian is difficult for the Jund deck to answer, but it is difficult for most control decks to answer, as both players are taking a mulligan down to at least 6 here.
Yeah. Matt Hoey in pretty good spirits for someone who's was in a car accident about an hour ago.
Yeah. He's thinking I was able to make it here on time, be able to play. Wish I wasn't down a game, but he's in what we have noticed is a favorable matchup for Jund. Yes, he is down a game right now, but Jund has a good matchup. Not great, as the Aristocrats can't beat anything depending on its draw, but it is favorable for Jund. So we'll see if Matt can come back.
Both players keeping 6.
All right, stomping grounds to begin for Mr. Hoey. The Battle of Mats. Check has a Godless Shrine to pass to the turn back. Hoey with a Blood Crypt. He says, go, you see a Thundermaw Hellkite in Hoey's hand, among other things. Could play a huge role here. There's a Skirt Stack High Priest there for check.
Skirt Stack High Priest seems very challenging to get online against Jund.
Not the easiest thing in the world. No. If you can't pump out a demon, you're feeling pretty good about yourself, though. But luckily, it does beat for 1.
Oh, yeah.
At the very least.
Oh, yeah. You know, its floor is still pretty high. Yeah. It's still getting in for 1.
1 is better than none. So that's going to draw a card. You see an Olivia Valderin in his hand, along with that. Looks like he has a Thragtusk over there as well. You see a Kessig Wolfrun as the land he's going to play. He also has a Murder there. Doesn't have double black just yet. But he's going to lean out. He's going to lead out with an Olivia Valderin and basically dare check to have the necessary cards to take care of this. Which I like a lot, because Olivia is a huge pain for the Aristocrats. This thing gets out of control very, very quickly.
I think it appears that Matthew Check has a Tragic Slip in his hand, but no way to enable an easy sack outlet this turn and slip. So he's probably just going to have to lose his High Priest.
See an Obsidian over there for check. Looks like he has a Falconwrath Aristocrat as well. Yep. Get brave, High Priest. You see Hoey said, I'm just going to take 1. I'm not going to turn the Tragic Slip that I'm pretty sure you do have right now.
Yeah.
Plays a Godless Line and passes the turn back. So in a reverse way, you know, Hoey can take care of that Skirt Stack High Priest. He's going to come across for 3, but if he does choose to do that, then Tragic Slip can take care of the Olivia. So we're just going to see a Hunt Match to the Fells. Going to gain 2 life. Getting a Wolf token. It doesn't look like Hoey has too much more going on this turn. Yeah, no 5th land, which is both good and bad if you're check.
Yep.
He's going to draw a card here. Draws another Tragic Slip. Could be time to maybe deploy that Obsidian.
I think Obsidian and phasing it out, there's a very strong argument for.
Okay.
Puts Matt Hoey potentially on a fair deal of pressure.
Yeah, I mean, in a unique way, it does that. It certainly also makes Hoey, you know, change the way he's playing the game, which is what Obsidian is aching to do. The question is, does he want to deploy it right now or not?
Well, his other option is to go Falconwrath Aristocrat, sack my High Priest, Tragic Slip Olivia, presumably, but then that exposes him to Matt simply flipping his Huntmaster and taking out the Aristocrat the next turn. So I just don't think that's a legitimate line of play now that the Huntmaster's in play.
So here is Obsidat. That's going to come in. It's going to gain check 2. It's going to drain Hoey 2. And he's not going to blink.
Ooh, gutsy.
So he's just going to leave the 5/5 Spirit Advisor in play. So Hoey draws a 5th land in the form of Kessel Wolf Run. 2 of those in his deck list. So now here comes Olivia.
You can see Matt Hoey actually has a pretty good habit, I would say, of any time Matthew has a reasonable board of creatures in play, pausing after every draw step, implying that the draw could have been Bonfire.
Thragtusk is going to come in post-combat for Hoey. He's going to gain himself 5 points of life.
Oh, there's a Mark of Mutiny?
That was a mark. No sacrifice out yet for the 1/2 punch. But he does have that Aristocrat in his hand, as you said earlier.
Yeah, it's just rough because Czech really needs to turn on these tragic slips. But the opportunity cost right now is very high.
So now here is Falkenrath Aristocrat. This is going to come across in.
So, are we sacking the High Priest here? Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like it.
Nope.
Little wary to pull the trigger. All right, so he's going to sacrifice this. It looks like he may have missed out on that free point of damage.
Yep.
So Olivia's going to bite the dust. One problem is quote unquote solved right now. Again, the question is, do you blink out that Ghost Council or not? It doesn't look like he's going to. I guess you kind of want that there to protect the Aristocrat, but in a weird way, do you really want to sacrifice a Ghost Council to a Falkenrath? You know, kind of a tough spot. Both cards so powerful. Hoey waiting a very long time here. I think this one might be a Bonfire.
It's possible. I mean, he's thinking an awful longer than he has on the other times where it has not been Bonfire.
Yeah.
This is also a spot where Bonfire for 4 is actually pretty complicated whether or not he wants to do it.
He Bonfire for 4. It doesn't take care of the Orzhov, but it does take care of the Aristocrat. It also gives him the option of sacrificing the Orzhov to the Aristocrat, which it feels like it's kind of win-win. Yeah.
Okay,
so here's your Bonfire for 4. It also allows him, if Czech wants to just let the Aristocrat die, the Orzhov has 4 points of damage on it, so then he can attack for free reign with the Wolf, the Huntmaster, and the Thragtusk, and feel happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of damage coming through.
Yeah.
And he still has Thundermaw Hellkite in hand, so even if Czech has a pretty good follow-up on his turn, Thundermaw probably wipes up whatever it is.
Now you see Czech just put in a, and you can tell he knows, he put in an absolutely terrible spot.
And the reason that this is such a hard decision for Matthew Czech is he has Mark of Mutiny in hand, so there's a huge incentive to try to keep a sack outlet in play.
Yep. And you see an attack here for 7. That's a turn back. You see an attack there for 7 and not 9. Maybe Mr. Hoey knows about that Mark of Mutiny. I mean, they do have access to sideboards.
Yeah, the only reason to do that is if you seriously respect the potential for Mark of Mutiny.
Yep.
Mark of Mutiny plus Tragic Slip is a pretty awesome sequence here.
It's a good turn. So here is Mark, going to take the Thragtusk. So it's going to become a 6/4. Aristocrat currently a 5/2, so that's a lot of damage on this comeback.
Yeah.
This game's pretty back and forth.
So we're going to see a block here.
Yeah, this game just turned around for a huge way. Sacrifice this. Does he slip here is the question.
Yeah.
And he doesn't.
No, very disciplined.
Wow.
And that's really important here because we know that Hoey has Thundermaw in hand. So
he's pulling. Boy, this is tough. He's pulling it forward. You can tell he kind of wants to slip. And he is.
All right, that's gonna kill him.
Yep. And now Hoey is going to quickly, he just shows him a Thundermaw Hellcat immediately, and Czech is going to concede the game. So we are going to move on to a third game here between Matt Hoey and Matthew Czech.
That was really impressive because Czech just looked like he was getting his head kicked in the majority of that game.
Yeah.
And it was definitely close there at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, Czech was definitely punching in that game.
Whew.
And you had to wonder now with him thinking exact lethal, was there a turn where he could have faced out Obsidat?
Yep.
I mean, there was at least one turn where it didn't appreciably change Hoey's attack, whether or not that Obsidat was in play or not.
Sure.
And that drain for 2, obviously, with the life totals the way they were, is a big, big deal.
And if you do phase it out, then you make Hoey reconsider his attacks because he knows that a 5/5 Haster's coming back. Changes the math. Changes a lot of things if there's one phase out in that game, as you said.
Yeah.
It's a wildly different game. Either way, we're going to move on to a game 3 here between Jund and the Aristocrats. Not sure, both players have already sideboarded. You see Hoey kind of looking at his sideboard yet again. Counting out to 15. Looks like Czech is already pretty happy with his configuration as well. So a lot of back and forth in this matchup. You can definitely see, both decks have extremely high impact cards.
Yep.
And that's where things get a little bit interesting because, we just saw a game where Falkenrath Aristocrat 8 in Orzhov Ghost Council, and it felt right. Or an Obsidat Ghost Council, excuse me, and it actually felt right, which is weird.
Oh, given Matthew's line there, where his plan is Mark of Mutiny, and with a second Falkenrath Aristocrat in hand, he just has to keep the Aristocrat in play that turn. It's the only way mana-wise his whole line of plays work.
Yeah.
Not ideal, of course, to have to do that, but
you gotta do what you gotta do.
His line of play was internally consistent.
Yeah.
He picked a path and went for it. And I actually liked the path that he chose. I think it gave him a very good shot of winning, but I do believe there was at least one turn where Obsidat could have been safely blinked out. The turn that he played it, that was the big one.
Sure. Again, a matchup that most feel does favor Jund, but again, it's pretty close.
Yep.
It's certainly, it's not certainly a blowout one way or the other. It really is dependent. When I've realized testing this deck over the past week, how many bonfires they have, and how often they're turned over via Miracle. Even a hardcast bonfire is pretty good, depending on what your draw is for the Aristocrats. It does take care of, again, Lingering Souls, can take care of Surstack, High Priest, plenty of things that it can pick off. But a Miracle bonfire is almost certainly a disaster.
Yes.
And we saw it that game, even though it wasn't for 5 to be able to clear out that Obsidat, it certainly put Czech to the test of what do you want to do. And you just see the kind of situations that a Miracle Bonfire can't put a player in, especially when playing the Aristocrats.
Looks like we got lands and both players are... Nope, Hoey is taking a mulligan.
Down to 6 he goes.
Jund's also, you mentioned Hoey going back to the sideboard. This seems like a matchup, and Jund is a deck in general where on the play and on the draw, you just want to be sideboarding a couple cards differently.
Yeah.
Because you have so many redundant cards. You have your threats that are all kind of roughly the same thing, and then you have a variety of removal. The mana cost of things probably dictates whether or not you want to have them on the play or on the draw.
Yeah.
Like in this matchup, for example, the one copy of Murder probably much better when you're on the play than when you're on the draw, just efficiency-wise. And so there's a lot of little things like that. I think that are more the case with a deck like Jund than many of the other decks in Standard.
Well, decks should just kind of sideboard the same, move on with life. This is a deck where, as you said, being on the play or being on the draw is wildly different. And you have to sideboard accordingly because of that, and that's a skill that is acquired after playing Magic for a little while. At the beginning of when I was playing, I thought you just sideboarded one way all the time and just kind of move on with life. And that's certainly not the case overall, and not the case with this deck. All right, Hoey looks happy. I think there's a Farseek among those cards. So we're underway here, game 3 of our semifinals.
Yeah, he does have a basic forest to pair with that Farseek, so...
See if Czech has no 2-drop, no High Priest, no Cartel Aristocrat, no Blood Artist. And here comes a Farseek, another Farseek in Hoey's hand too. So mana becoming less of an issue as he is going to search for a Stomping Ground.
I believe he actually has 2 more Farseeks in his hand, in fact.
All these Farseeks. There's an Isolated Chapel. Lingering Souls? Okay, so Reckoner. So he does have at least a 3-drop to play. And it's a gosh darn good one in the Minotaur Wizard. That is Boros Reckoner. Hoey gonna draw a card. It's a Bonfire of the Damned. Here's a Farseek.
I like actually how he stopped thinking about it so fast, because obviously he's not going to Bonfire for 2 against the Reckoner, and does not want Czech to know that he's drawn 1. So Matt Hoey's body language with his draw steps has actually been pretty compelling to watch.
Yeah. No. Draw a card. It's a Tragic Slip. I think there's a Falcon Wrath over there.
Yep.
Yep. So the beatdowns are coming really quick, and this is something that you talked about yesterday. The combinations of these of the cards in this deck are very, very good. A lot of synergies in the Aristocrats, but there's also just this draw.
Yeah.
Of Reckoner Aristocrat you.
Yeah. Just a deck with just a draw of powerful stuff.
And so here's a Hunt Match of the Fells. Doesn't line up the best against either one of the cards that are in play.
No.
This Czech is going to draw a card. It is
another
an Aristocrat.
Does he have Obsidat in
yes,
hand as
he
well?
does. He has Cavern of Souls too. Whew.
Yeah, his hand is loaded.
Cavern of Souls, we'll see what it's going to name in just a moment here. Boy, that hand's good.
I believe he said Minotaur. I'm not positive. Mouth with a chuckle.
What to do when you have? What do you do when someone just has it all?
You need Spirit.
You have Spirit, okay. All right, so in comes these guys, and Hoey said, I don't have good blocks.
Yeah.
So
it's funny there because Matthew Czech's hand is so good, and he wants to get Obsidat and play so badly that he was actually almost didn't swing with Reckoner there because he was worried about Hoey double blocking, even though there's like basically no way Hoey double blocks there.
Yeah.
But he just doesn't want to use a mana at all.
Yeah. So now Obsidat's going to go bye-bye. Hoey's going to untap. He's going to draw. Is this another Bonfire? Because even if it is, it's not, but Bonfire is just a disaster to cast here.
Yeah.
Yep, Eddie's going to concede the game. So Matthew Czech is going to win 2-1 over Matthew Hoey. We're going to have a Jund versus Aristocrats finals, my friend.
The Aristocrats, a powerful and synergistic deck. The combo is Boros Reckoner into Aristocrat into Obsidat, and the combo is they're all just like pretty hard to block and hard to kill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
just
combo deck.
Very, very just good, efficient threats, and he just can say, "Here's those beatdowns. Try to beat them." And that game, Hoey could not. So we're gonna have Jund v Aristocrats here in the finals.
Yeah, we get to run it back.
Yeah.
Although like we've mentioned a couple times now, Ryan Fisher's build. No copies of Bonfire of the Dam, which is one of the more troubling cards for the Aristocrats to play against in the matchup.
Yeah.
So that's a huge edge, especially since we've just seen Matthew Czech get through a build that had multiple copies of Bonfire.
He does not believe in miracles.
No.
Not at all.
No.